So let's just say like for what is your like most common person that you see on a day-to-day basis? Is it students? Would you say?
That's all that we see.
Okay. So for the common student, common college student, how important is their mental stability in terms of like food, water, mental stability? Like where would it rank on that scale?
Oh wow, I guess I would, if we're looking at it that way, I would say probably it's second on the list, right? If you, of course, this is just a matter of opinion, and everything I say, I guess I have to say this. Everything I say here is my opinion, and I don't necessarily, I don't represent the counseling center here in this opinion. But I'm going to guess it's number two, right? It has to be physical first, because if you're dead or dying, well, then your mental health doesn't matter.
Mm-hmm.
But after that, how you feel about the world dictates what you do in the world, and how you respond to the world. So
Right.
I would say, if you're just going to flat out give me a scale, then I've got to say your mental health is number two.
Okay. No, that's a good answer. And then so jumping into what the topic is really all about, those two were just kind of preluding to the topic that I chose. And why do you think men are quieter than women when it comes to speaking out their mental health in general, talking about it, going to therapy, getting help for it? Like, why do you think they are less likely to do those things than women are? Do you think it's because it's more of like advertisement for women, or do you think it's just something of what you think?
So I think it could be a mix of all those things. It's two broad worlds here, right? There's what we imagine it is to be outside of mental health, in the sense of, does it look like generally, men are less able to talk about their feelings because they've been given the ideas that men don't do that? Yeah, sure, that makes a lot of sense, and that has a lot of explanatory power. But once the person walks into my office, I really put all that aside. I want to know for them what made it difficult, right?
Mm-hmm.
Whether it's reaching out for help, or whether it's some emotional problem they're having, or however you couch that, however you frame that. What I'm going to go for is the individual meaning, right? I'm not going to worry about, what do all the other men in the world struggle with right now, right?
Mm-hmm.
I don't care about that. What
Right.
I care about is the person sitting in front of me.
Right.
So if that answers your question at all.
No, yeah, it does. It does.
And I don't think it's hard to say, because I don't watch a lot of TV. I don't even pay a lot of attention to advertising. I'm kind of immune to most of that stuff.
Okay.
For better or for worse, it's hard for me to imagine that any advertising we do on campus is gender based or biased or that. I think we do a pretty good job of saying, hey, mental health is for everybody.
Right. Okay. And then kind of leading into the next question here. Do you think that mental health, let's just say on a college campus, on our college campus, do you think that mental health is made to be like less important for men than it is for women in society and on like a college campus? Do you feel like our college and most colleges are saying mental health is for everybody, or do you feel like a lot of the counseling centers across the nation get more women than men?
So first off, your audio is going in and out, and I can kind of make out what you're saying, but I don't know if that's going to come across on your recording.
Okay. Let me see if I can.
It's better the closer to the mic you get.
Okay. Not sure.
I just don't want you to go back later and you're listening to the thing for your podcast and you're like, crap, I can't.
Right. Yeah. Okay. Is it still going in and out?
No, right now it's good.
Okay. I don't know. Just let me know when it keeps doing that.
So I'll try to answer your question. Again, these are like really, really broad strokes
Right.
that we're talking in here. Yeah, it's true that we see way more women than we do men. But I don't know what those numbers look like on other college campuses.
Mm-hmm.
mean, I've been here since September, so I can only tell you what my experience is here.
Right.
And sure, can we say broadly that it seems like men's mental health takes a backseat to some other things? Maybe, but again, I don't pay a whole lot of attention to that, and I care what's going on with the individual at the individual level.
Okay.
Are there pockets where we have some really backwards ideas about that? Sure. I would imagine, sports is one of those pockets. Fraternities, probably one of those pockets. My own personal experience with treating like firefighters and police officers in EMS in community mental health scenarios, my experience there has been that those kinds of cultures typically say, we don't talk about our problems and mental health is for other people. So yeah, there are definitely pockets where we dissuade people from, or men specifically, for reaching out for help.
Okay. Yeah,
But I think we're also getting a lot better about seeing that too.
I think so too. Yeah, I think what you said about the police and like the firemen and stuff is so interesting because I don't think a lot of people realize that. Like, I don't think a lot of people think about that on a day-to-day basis.
Oh yeah, no, it's a really big deal. There's there's a lot of undiagnosed depression and PTSD in firefighters and EMS and police officers simply because it's that toxic masculinity, to use a big buzzword. I don't like using buzzwords, but it's a real thing.
Right.
Yeah, they say, hey, we don't talk about our problems, and if you've got a problem, you can't cut it. So
right.
Get out.
Yeah. And what is your opinion on mental health days for school, work, etc.? Do you think they're necessary? Do you think that some people take advantage of them? What is your opinion on stuff like that?
So, broadly speaking, absolutely, in total support of mental health days. Is there a risk of people abusing that? Sure, but there's a risk of people abusing everything, right? You will always have a certain subset of people who are looking to get one over on the system, and it doesn't really matter what rule you have in place or what barriers. Like, they'll find a way around them.
Right.
And I would rather err on the side of making sure people get the mental space they need to kick around and figure things out, as opposed to being wrong about, hey, this person really needed some help, and instead I told them to just suck it up, and that pushed them over the edge. So yeah, absolutely, mental health days. Okay, that's good. And I too, I think about, you didn't ask this, but I think about that in the same way that I think about my physical health, right?
Mm-hmm.
Like, we're a lot better about encouraging people to do things proactively to take care of their physical health.
Right.
Like, go for a run, make sure you work out, lift weights 3 days a week, right?
Mm-hmm.
Well, that applies to mental health too. That's on a spectrum, and you can routinely take care of your mental health. And sometimes that's by taking a day off. You shouldn't have to be sick, I think, to do that.
Right.
If that makes sense.
Okay, yeah, that makes sense. I asked that because, a lot of teachers don't care, and a lot of professors don't care about mental health days. They say 3 absences and that's it, and then they don't count mental health as an excuse. So you kind of touched about it on the firefighters and the police side of it.
Hold up, you're going in and out again.
Oh, I am? Okay. Let me try and get closer here. Am I still going in and out, or am I good?
That's good.
That's good? Okay. Do you think that the man up mentality, like kind of what you were talking about, toxic masculinity, has hurt today's generation?
So I don't, again, that's super broad, right? I don't think a lot about in terms of today's generation. I think about the individual. If you put me in a place where I kind of have to speak to that, I'll say this. Humans tend to be more reactive than proactive, right? And because of that, whenever you take any kind of a hard stance on something, you can almost guarantee that in society, in a culture, there will be some people who take another stance, right? And so the pendulum, anytime you put your foot down about a thing, just prepare yourself for the pendulum of opinion to sway back and forth, right? So, trying to say this in a way that cuts right to the chase here. It is difficult to know sometimes whether this is a situation where someone really needs to be vulnerable and needs help, right? And whether or not it's a situation where someone could simply just grin and bear it, right? Because we know that adversity builds resilience.
Right.
We know that. So yeah, it's difficult to say that we need to take a stance one way or the other. I think we need to figure it out at the individual level, right, as best as we can.
Right.
I think it's fair to say broadly that a man up approach has caused a lot of problems.
Mm-hmm.
Sure, because that discourages people from getting help, discourages people from being vulnerable and authentic. That complicates relationships. I mean, we could just go on and on and on, right?
Yeah.
So, yeah, it's generally not good, but again, it's based on the individual and based on context, and sometimes it really is okay to say, yeah, life is hard, and I'll repeat myself, adversity builds resilience.
Right. And going to like the mental illness rates, and because they're so, if you look at some of the numbers online, it's kind of staggering. And some people look at it and say, you know, why is it so high? Why are they so? Why is it because therapy is encouraged a lot? Is it because that people now deal with their problems in different ways? Why do you think mental illness rates are higher than back then?
Okay, so they actually looked at some stuff on that today to make sure that the words that came out of my mouth made sense and were connected to science and reality.
Mm-hmm.
So here's the way I understand it is, number one, a lot of our numbers rely on self-report, and that isn't always the best way to get good numbers.
Right.
In fact, it's pretty typically not a good way, but sometimes it's the only way.
Mm-hmm.
Also, if you look at the numbers in relative comparison to population growth, it's actually kind of flatlined.
Okay.
So sure, the numbers in a vacuum are going up.
Mm-hmm.
But if you look at that compared to how many more people there are on the planet than there were in, say, 1960,
right,
it kind of makes sense, right?
Right.
So the numbers, to more to your point, the numbers are up because there are simply more people. The numbers are also up because we're more aware of mental health issues, and so we're looking for it more often. And when you look for something, you're going to find it. When you look for it more, you're going to find it more.
Right.
The tools that we use to find it are more precise than they used to be. And on a more positive note, the numbers are higher because there's a little less taboo around it, and people are seeking help.
Right.
And so we're seeing that.
Okay. And then last question here. You kind of talked about how the rates are higher because of the things you just mentioned. I'm gonna delve into something that's very a lot of people deal with. It's probably the leading mental illness rate right now. That's depression. Would you say that's fair?
Yeah, I think that's what the numbers show too. Yeah.
Okay, yeah. So where do you see depression rates in the next 2 to 3 years? Do you think they're higher? Do you think they're lower? And why do you think that way?
I don't like predicting the future, and that's what it feels like you're asking me to do.
Yeah.
But as unpopular as it is, I'm going to say we're probably going to see those rates go up.
Okay.
For a couple different reasons. One is, again, we're looking for it more often. The less taboo that there is around seeking treatment, the more people that will seek treatment, that drives the numbers up. If you look, like, historically, we've been pretty ineffective at treating depression on a whole.
Right.
On the whole.
Right.
And that's also an unpopular opinion, but it's also a fact. Or it's an unpopular thing to say, but it's a fact.
Yeah.
And then, I don't know, when you think about the discrepancy between the haves and the have-nots, right?
Yeah.
Economic wars, like that produces poverty. Poverty and depression go hand in hand. War.
Right.
I mean, I think immediately about what's happening in Ukraine, like those
Right.
kinds of things.
Yeah.
They don't resolve themselves easily or in short amount of time.
Right.
And so we'll see, that can produce depression in 3 or 4 generations of people. What are some other things? Yeah, I mean that kind of in and of itself, I think, is enough to pretty much bank on depression being still a thing.
Okay. Thank you so much for your time and so much for your answers to your questions. I found it really interesting, and I think a lot of people will find it interesting as well, because I think there are a lot of questions around where men's health is today, especially for college students, for people like my age who don't really know the numbers and don't really know those sequences, like you were talking about, and how different fields can lead to different illnesses and different things like that. And I also have seen it with people that I've been around my whole life, so like my dad and my grandfather, and how sometimes they've struggled with it and haven't really told anybody. And I think that produces a kind of a generational kind of downspill on. And I think that in today's society, we should. I think it's better that it's encouraged to talk about it now, like you.
Right. Yeah. My grandfather would not have gone to therapy.
Right. Yeah. Exactly. Mine either. So mine didn't go, and so that's why I'm glad that the narrative has kind of changed in that sense. But again, thank you so much for your time. I really appreciate it. And have a great rest of your day.
Yeah, absolutely. Thanks for asking me. I hope this turns out well for you.
Thank you so much. Appreciate it.
Good luck.
Thank you.